Good morning and welcome. This is NewsCheck on this day. Actually, a lot has happened when it comes to matters of coronavirus. We have 50 infected people as close of business yesterday. But there are so many things that have happened in the last, let's say, 5-6 days. I'm talking about the curfew. And of course, the curfew has with it come with a lot of, carried a lot of baggage, including a dent to the economy. But one thing is for sure is that as Kenyans and the whole world, we are experiencing almost the same thing, albeit a little bit different, but we'll be trying to put things into perspective on this news check. My name is Ben Troy Njwe. Byron Abuli will be our sign language interpreter on the bottom right of your screen. We just want your view on how the curfew and the government directive of the 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. is when you are supposed to be out, but when the clock hits 7 to 5 a.m., you are not supposed to be outside. So how has the curfew and the government directives affected you? Remember, there are a host of, a raft of measures the government came up with, talking about if you earn less than 24,000, you are not going to be taxed. And of course, there are some tax incentives that were attached by the president. We expect Parliament and the Senate to be reconvening for special sittings to discuss the same, as it has to be ratified by Parliament. But those are some of the things that we're going to be discussing. And joining me on set on my immediate left is Madam Salome Nduta, who is the programs director at the Defenders Coalition. Of course, this is the National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders in the country. And on my extreme left, we have Bishop Mike Brown, who is a spiritual leader and, of course, leads the Metro Ministries right here in Nairobi, right?
Yeah, all over the country.
Madam and gentlemen, karibuni.
Asante.
And this is something that has affected everyone. I do remember yesterday after the 10 o'clock news, from here, we, of course, we had to drop some people before we head to my place. And I can tell you for a fact, I never saw any border. I never saw any matatu at that time. And no business was closed. And I can tell you for a fact, we were on the road for a couple of minutes. Perhaps starting with you, Madam Salome, how has it affected you, of course? And being a programs director, it must have affected also the work that you do.
Starting with COVID-19, yes. It means that right now we are not doing any work. Much of our work is related to interacting with people, creating awareness, sending out information. So outrightly, we cannot travel, we can't meet with people, we can't do our education like we always do.
Yes.
Coming back to curfew, I have to make sure that by 6:30 latest, I'm in the house. If you get in the house, you find that you're missing something as simple as an onion or a tomato, you have to think twice before you even decide to go out. Beyond myself, in terms of human rights and the issues that you have raised, the police, as much as they are supposed to...
Before we even go to the police, because after the curfew was announced, and since the President and the Ministry of Health have been advising us, a lot has transpired before then. But before we go to the curfew and the effects on what the police did, I just wanted a feel of what it has been able to do to your life, perhaps your family, and the work that you do.
Let me touch back to my life.
Yes, yes.
The whole question of power outages, which has been happening every now and then, affects the way you operate within the house. And like you had indicated, on Sunday, every Sunday we go to church. So for this particular Sunday, we were not supposed to go. So you're seated watching the mass going on Citizen, and within no time, power goes off. So that affects you as a person, because emotionally and psychologically, you had prepared yourself to participate on the mass online. Then power goes off. Then secondly, in terms of even streaming live, because you know our technology is not so advanced, so you try to stream online, but then with all this, I think everybody was online, so you are not even able to follow the mass. So at a personal level, that really affected me.
Bishop,
Yeah.
I think if you talk about how the curfew has affected you, I'm quite sure you're going to talk about Sunday. Kindly.
Yeah, I think this has affected everyone.
Yes.
All over the world.
How has it affected you as a person?
And as a person,
Yes.
was to be in a big church with an empty people. And the fact that you have to stream it live, as long as you don't see people.
You also did that on Facebook and
I
other
did
social
all
media.
The kind of streaming, but you still don't feel the effect.
Yes.
Because we are motivated by seeing people.
And also somebody saying amen.
Yeah, and the gathering of the people is the joy of a preacher, is the people. When you see the multitude, that's how it motivates you. So the fact that I know that's not really the church are where people out of the building, but it really, because this is the first time. This is the first time. Even the worst time in the history, there's no day a church has ever been shut.
It's true.
It has never. Church has
And especially
been
when you talk about Kenya,
has
we
been
have
like
some
a police
radicalized
station whereby people run. It's a home of rescue. It's a place of refuge. So this was very, very disappointing. But the truth is the way the situation is, because anything that affects children, because this is the only disease that affects everybody. And I just came up with a word. I said to some people this morning, I was telling them that we give numbers. Or today we are 50, yesterday we were this number, today they will tell us how much. But the truth is, we are, everybody
is affected.
Everybody.
Or infected for that matter. Yes.
By the way, the truth, what the government should tell people, everybody has it. It's only some people have negative, the other positive.
Yes.
So they have not been tested.
Yes, of course, it has affected
everybody.
Even the 13 group of or class of people who the president said were essential service providers. When you tell a supermarket that you can remain open for the rest of the night, who are going to buy? And of course, I have to be in the house. Let's now go back to the curfew. After the curfew was announced, it was exactly, actually, there were some reports, and even in Mombasa, we even had one of our own journalists, of course, not from this media station, but one of us from the Farthest state, that was really assaulted by police even before the curfew was announced. Yesterday I was in court together with the LSK, although they filed the case online. They had a case where they were objected to the curfew. They acknowledge and they are alive to the fact that the coronavirus has made things just have to change. But when it comes to beating people, that is not even in the Constitution. I'm quite sure your phone was ringing ever since from Friday, right?
Yes. Let me say that when this curfew was announced, we all appreciated that we have a problem. COVID-19, and we need to deal with it. What was at the back of our mind was that people would see sense in dealing with it in the best way possible, and beating was the least of it. So when we started seeing what was happening in Mombasa, when we got reports as late as yesterday that a young person was killed in Huruma,
yes, we have that.
You still feel that, yes, on one hand, the government and especially the police, they are telling us they are not using excessive force, but you can't have people dying because of beatings. And this is the least that is expected. Even in wars, even in conflicts, women, children are never targeted.
And even the elderly.
And even the elderly. But we also what happened in Mombasa at the ferry, where law enforcers were literally beating women with rungus. So that can outrightly tell you, if a person can lift a rungu to hit a woman, what would they do to a man? Because, you know, people feel men are more strong. So when they are beating a woman one rungu, they might beat a man 2, 3. But this should not be condoned. So from a human rights perspective, we are saying there is need, for one, take stern action on any enforcer who especially is caught on camera beating. Be they be beating a man, a journalist, a woman. Beating should never be condoned. And I'm happy that LSK went to court, because according to the law, there's a way on how to treat a person who has gone against a curfew.
It's true.
Secondly, there needs to be guidelines on how people need to behave within this period of COVID-19, and especially this curfew. This curfew is different from any other curfew. Yeah. It is not about having the insecurity of the state at risk. Like Bishop said, we are all at risk. So how do we handle this curfew? What guidelines are we going to set up to handle this curfew? Because it is a special case. You're dealing with COVID on one side, and you're dealing with curfew. Yeah. And none of them is better. So when you beat me, you even worsen it. Because you beat me, I get hurt. I can't leave my house to go to hospital, which was the case in Kwale, where this young man, it is said, was taking a woman who was expectant to hospital. This is expected. We have a number of women who are expectant at this point in time. And if we go by what happened in Kwale, who will come out of his house to help a woman who is expectant to take her to hospital? Because you fear on your way back, you will be beaten. And what happens to you? Because you get back home, your family cannot take you to hospital, that it means you have to remain hurting in the house until 5 in the morning when you can leave your house to go to the hospital. So when I say the curfew needs to have special measures, it's to think about the things we are seeing happening, the consequences and the impact thereafter, and develop guidelines. Yeah.
Indeed. And just to echo what Madam Salome has talked about, when we talk about the curfew, the fine you're supposed to receive if you go against the curfew is 1,000 shillings or 3 months imprisonment, or both. There is no place in the Constitution, because actually the Constitution is our Bible. There is no place where a corporal punishment it should be administered because somebody has contravened some section of the law. And of course, they touched on Article 10, which talked about, of course, a lot of integrity in the country and stuff. Bishop, how did you receive the news? You were watching on television the photos from the social media?
No, I even was driving. I was just driving from my church to my home.
Yes.
And when it was at least 6:46, you know, Kenyans always will react the last minute. It's a normal
being the first day.
Yeah. They will want to rush the last minute. But they didn't know at that rush minute the police were already released. As Madam Salome has said, I think it is so sad. They have painted an image that they had already erased. Before we were thinking now police were coming up to be friends. Now once again, just because of this particular issue, they have gone back to the dark time whereby we see police as enemy. Because police is someone you need to run to and say, please, I need help. I need this help. But the way they have behaved for the last few days, I tell you, I won't want to go to them when I have a problem. I won't want my children. But the question is this: if it was your mother, that's the question. If it was your brother, would you still beat them the way? These people, they should know they also have families.
Yes.
Whatever you do to other people, it will be done to you. And I'm telling you, that is for sure. One day, there will be a time, because you'll never be a policeman forever. One day you'll need somebody. So my advice and my prayer for the police department and those, even NYS, even they are the worst. They have not yet employed, but they behave like wild animals. People creating fear does not help people. We are all having this problem. Okay, it's good to advise Kenya to know, let us follow the law, let us agree, accept with what is doing. But sometimes also you should know, it's easy to tell me go back home because you have a home.
Yes.
You have a home.
Yes.
But I have people I've seen in my town, even when you tell them to go home, they wonder, what are you telling them? Because they have no proper thing that they call home. But at the same time, even when they are still going to their shackle, we are punishing them to go there faster.
Yes.
And to beat the people and to raise any arm There is no law on earth, not even in Kenya, all over the world, whereby when you have said something just because it's a law, that you need to beat past the person. There's nothing like that. All you need to do, take the person to court.
Yeah, and some people have argued there's a problem between the policy itself and the implementations itself, because what the president talked about while issuing the curfew didn't talk about any person arrested who will be beaten up, or anybody who is beaten by the curfew. And perhaps Madam Salome can clear the air. Do you believe that perhaps the government should have given maybe a grace period of a day or two, because what we witnessed on that day is something else?
I think the most important was guidelines on how some of these things need to be done.
Because some people, being essential service, were also beaten up.
Exactly. So when the president gives directives, there are people who have responsibility to see how those directives are to be implemented. And I'm very sure by the time the president came out to give directives, he didn't just wake up. He had meetings with people. He had people to advise him. So for me, those discussions, the meetings they were having, there needed to be somebody who was supposed to be taking notes and immediately thinking about how is this going to be effected, so that when it starts, people are not beaten. Probably even if we were given a grace period of 1 day, 2, 3, and there are no guidelines, the police would have behaved the same way.
And perhaps to echo what Madam Salome has talked about, I know my director, Morris, if we can exactly have exact direction that the president gave on Wednesday last week, just a day before the curfew was implemented. And other than that, we saw one of the arguments of Law Society of Kenya is that the police bundle people in groups, of which is against the World Health and against the Ministry of Health Directive on social quarantine, which actually would have posed a big challenge. Look at even the ferry in Mombasa. Some of the directives that the president gave on 25th, that is Wednesday last week, while also announcing the curfew. And talking about the curfew, we have witnessed so many countries going to a lockdown. That is something that we are not actually, we wouldn't want to get there. But let's first of all look at, Bishop, kindly let's look at Sunday. You do remember the other Sunday, it was decided that the churches were not going to be compelled, but from what the president later said on Wednesday, he said all social gatherings to be stopped. But also we witnessed some churches, names withheld, having congregations on the same day.
Yeah, as I think I told you that for many preachers it's very difficult. So as Kenyans also.
Why is it difficult? Perhaps it's on the money side,
it's
because
a mindset of people. Yes. Like in Kenya, that's why the police gets this advantage, because some people, unless they are given a deadline on something, they will still do it. And what we urge all our churches and other churches that I work with was we need to follow the law, because this is not something for one person. Just the way I've said. And amazing of this COVID is that it is not a respectant of persons. It does, you know, there are diseases we know it will get someone like the poor people. We have a class of every disease. Even HIV and other, we know there are kind of people that is easily, if you hear they have it, you don't get shocked. But this one doesn't care, even the prince. He doesn't care, even the PM, the prime ministers, top people in another countries that are so special, the preachers. So it was good for the churches to obey the law, not in fear, because this is a different thing. The biggest thing that these things strive on is fear. We create more fear than the reality. So we don't need to work it in fear, but it's good to obey. And for those who know the Bible, it says also obedience is better than sacrifice. So sometimes we can go to church to show ourselves strong and how we don't care, and then we affect more people, and it becomes a blame over the church, which is not the right thing. So those who went on Sunday to try to prove maybe to their members, and normally it's not even the preacher, it's the people behind him who wants to show you, hey, you can do it. But sometimes it's good to humble, follow the rules, because this is all over the world. It's not just in Kenya. It is not just something that the president woke up and came up with it. It's after, the way Madam Salome said, it's after all consultation, and everyone came and they discovered this is the way, the best way to go. And it's not even total, because the way you have just said, there are some countries that is under total lockdown. Completely, you can't do anything. And if it is, that's the only way we can obtain help. And the good news is this is not a permanent.
Yes.
We have been told there are people, because of this kind of behavior, it has passed on.
Yes.
There are nations, just because they were very careful to note that this thing, if we clip all the small rules, it will go out. So I think personally that is so important. We will lose 2 or 3 Sundays without this, but Sundays is not the church. And this is what also people should know. The building is nothing to do with the church. It's like education is no longer schools. Now more people get degrees without going to class.
Even online.
That's what I'm saying here. So we have to change our attitude that this is the only way we can live. Because a church is just a building. The church is me. So the president could lock the building, but he cannot lock the church. The church is still on.
Yes, I don't want to preach, but he also says
good.
2 or 3 are gathered in his name. It doesn't talk about exactly the building.
It's nothing to do with the building.
It has nothing. You'll be in the midst of it.
I am there in the midst. Now he's here in our midst.
And now, being actually one of the people that people are looking onto, because looking at the challenge that we have, Kenya also did a prayer day on Saturday, meaning that as much as we are washing our hands, as much as we are looking for a cure or a vaccine, we also need God. By the way, are you actually telling people that in as much as we are looking out for God, we also need to do other things we've been told? Social quarantine, social distancing, washing our hands, maintaining hygiene.
You see, that's one of the principles of also in the Bible. It's not nothing out of the Bible. There is even a time Jesus told people, when you walk, don't greet anybody. So the truth is, sometimes it's very, very important. When there was calamity in Israel, people were locked. They were told, you will not go out during Passover. You shall stay inside, because the angel of death will be passing. So following this thing, it doesn't mean we don't believe in God. God is first. God, in fact, it's God who is helping us to do this, because even without that God, you don't have hands to wash. So God is there. We need to follow all the Bible that is saying, but at the same time, these are important health. I believe in divine healing so much that you cannot believe. But I believe God can heal people, and I've seen them healed. Now, the bad thing is this: if I pray for you, you have malaria today, God heals you, and we don't deal with the mosquito in your house, you're going to get a new one. So every Sunday we'll be praying for the people, which is not the right thing. Sometimes it's easy. Teach people to wash hands, to do the hygiene. So
that's a very noble gesture. The churches actually should borrow a leaf, because the good thing you're saying that even without God, those hands that you're washing, you can't be having those hands. I really was one, but it's a good one. Perhaps to go back to Madam Salome on the human rights. Yesterday, and actually I went through the petition that LSK had actually brought to court. And the funny thing I noticed is that you are Defenders Coalition. That means that there are so many other human rights agencies in the same. But LSK, the Law Society of Kenya, and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, actually it was mentioned as one of the interested parties. Don't you think after what we saw and the rights that we have in Kenya, should be also so many people coming out to perhaps fight for them? Why the LSK alone?
I wish to note that we did a statement together with other partners and a network we call the Police Reform Working Group, because we realized that there are other important players who have not been listed as essential service providers. And by virtue of them missing out in that list, then we are seeing the way things are taking shape. Allow me to slightly go back to what Bishop has said. Prayers is important. Curfew is important, but tied to this, service provision is important. You tell people to stay in the house, they don't have food, they don't have water, even a place to call a toilet. Not everybody in this country has a toilet or a bathroom in the same house they live in. For example, the issues and the concerns of people living in informal settlements, street children or street families, are they taken care of? They are not. So that then issues of provision of water is important. If you do not have a person who works or deals with concerns like this listed as an essential service provider, then those concerns will always be left behind. And therefore, there are other issues beyond just discussions around curfew that the government needs to consider. Is everybody getting food? Is everybody able to get food? Because the tax bracket that was given of 24,000 shillings, there's a mama mboga, there's a person who sells sweets on the streets, that person does not even fall within that tax bracket. They live on a daily basis, that if I don't go to the streets to sell my sweets, then by the end of the day, I'm not able to put food on the table.
That you've talked about that, because my next question to you was on the government measures that were outlined by the president, and plus others that have also been added by the agencies involved, including the Ministry of Health. What is your take on them?
I want first to appreciate what is being done by the Competition Authority of Kenya, where they are controlling prices. And if we go back to, I think on 15th, in one of the supermarkets, I think it was in Waraka, where they gave them timelines that within 10 days, kindly refund back any extra shilling you had added on top of sanitizers. I think entities like those are doing quite some good work. And therefore, that is one aspect that needs to be kept up. They need to monitor which commodities are being hiked prices, and they take stern action. Then, is there a possibility for zero rating some essential commodities? And especially for the poor people who are living in informal settlements, so that then they are able to buy these things which they need. Thirdly, let me just go back to the essential service providers and just raise a concern with our doctors and nurses. We've been told that children will be learning from home. We've seen programs being offered on radio, and television. At the back of my mind, I'm asking for those parents who are able to be with their children to monitor and explain what the questions that are being shared. Those ones are lucky. But for our doctors and nurses, their children have been left to be either tutored by the house helps. Is there a possibility for the government to come up with a special program for kids of these service providers, specifically our doctors and nurses who are required to be on standby 24/7? Because even the house helps, you cannot cope with cooking, washing, and on top of that, taking care of children in terms of monitoring their assignments, uploading those assignments online.
The basic hygiene, because now you have
exactly. So there needs to be, the government needs to think just of a program that would take care of homeschooling for some of these children who fall, for some of these parents who fall within the categories of service providers. Provision of water, 24/7. We have so many estates in Nairobi. Let me not even mention other towns where water runs for 2 days. If you're expected to wash your hands after every 20 minutes or 20 seconds, as frequently as you can. So will you prioritize washing hands, washing clothes, putting water aside for cooking or drinking?
And you have limited resources.
And you have limited resources. I remember some time back when cholera broke out. For the first time, we saw the water companies and the city council then putting water all over. I think this is that, this is that time when we need to have water running 24/7 in every estate in this country, including the informal settlements, including the sites or bases where street children or street families live. There needs to be water available. Beyond water, there needs to be soap. Yes. And if soap is not provided, can it be one of those commodities that is zero rated?
Indeed. And we are expecting our politicians, of course, our leaders to be having a sitting today. We are having a Senate in the afternoon, and tomorrow we'll be having a parliament subject to confirmation. But our legislators will be getting back to the drawing board, of course, to ratify what the president talked about in terms of tax waivers and stuff. And before I go to what the Anglican Bishop Jackson Ole Sapit talked about, because I'm quite sure we are now getting deeper and deeper into some of the solution, offering solution, some of solution perhaps we can do, because we are all in this together. On a viewpoint question, actually, it's a viewpoint, I would say it's just viewpoint, anything that you want to, perhaps even where you're watching us from. Of course, we are supposed to be indoor. How has the curfew and the government directives affected you in terms of, there's so many people have been affected. I can say for a fact 100%. Everyone on this land will be affected, and the globe as well. But when it comes to have a look at what has the curfew and the government directive, how has the curfew and the government directive affected you? Remember, at Ben Troy and you at KBC Channel 1. Remember, viewpoint question is, how has the curfew and the government directives affected you? Of course, and majorly, those people who are working on a 24-hour economy in their own right, are having a very hard time. People who work at night, people who do business with people who work at night, and especially on security, on food provision, on transport, have been affected. But it is very necessary. We have even countries that have issued not only a curfew, but a total lockdown. So on the curfew, I like to call it the Kenyan challenge of 6:59:59 is the only time that you're supposed to be outside. The rest from 7, you're supposed to be indoors. And talking about what the coronavirus effect and more so on the curfew has done, I'm joined by Salome Nduta, who is the program's director, the Defenders Coalition, which is an umbrella body of the National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders in Kenya, right? Yes. And of course, we have Bishop Mike Brown, who is a spiritual leader and leads the Metro Ministries. Perhaps back to you, Bishop, is that the Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit in a letter talked about how the government should subsidize basic commodities, just as Madam Nduta has talked about, provide subsidies on food such as maize, rice, and wheat, because now being indoors, you must have something to put on your table. Of course, there are raft of measures and tax incentives that were mentioned by the government. Of course, we'll touch some, and especially now that the rains are coming, and we had not finished up on our to-do list. We also have okay, there have been no news on the locust, but I'm quite sure it's also still a challenge in Kenya. Some people are arguing that even the locusts are afraid of the coronavirus, but that was on a light note. But kindly touch on that, as you also mourn the former Catholic Archbishop Emeritus Ndingi Monazeki. You do remember he was also very vocal when it comes to social governance and leadership in this country, who passed on early today, and may God rest his soul in everlasting peace. Anglican Archbishop Jackson was talking about government should, and remember, he was talking about this after the government said that it was going to offer tax incentives perhaps to people who earn less than 24,000, people who also the pay as you earn, of which we expect our leaders to be ratifying that in the next coming days. Bishop.
Yeah, all the same, it's very, very sad to hear the person of His Eminence Archbishop. Mwananzeki was our bishop in Nakuru many years ago when I was a young boy. And he educated me in primary, Catholic Nakuru. So it's sad, but it's time, let him pass on and let him rest in peace.
Yes.
The truth is about the commodities that are so essential. I think the government must, not they should, it is a must. Because even the money the president is saying the cut, this should go to something to do with food. I was yesterday firsthand going to visit some of the families, a group of people that I had invited them to supply soap. The way my sister said about water, when we say people to wash their hand and they cannot have water. These are the things the government should make as mandatory. For example, they can say now, there's no way the water company can disconnect water for people just because of payment. They would rather postpone the payment, but we have those things on. So that can be made by the government. The government can allow things like flour, things like maize meal, flour, the things that's so essential. Yesterday, I saw a bag, a 1 kg bag of flour pouring down, and people still scooping.
So to the last grain.
To the rice. I could not believe my... So we have a problem. And this problem is not permanent. That's the good news. But the thing is, we have to do something. And the best thing is that the government now to look at the essential things. These things like sanitizers, there are some people who even don't know what it is.
Yes.
We all know this around the town. Just go out of the city, there are people who have no soap, leave alone anything else. So this small commodity like soap, and by the way, which is the truth now, soap kills the virus faster than anything else.
Yes.
Soap and water is the best way to do the thing. So the government should come up and identify 4 to 3 commodities that are so important that can save life at this emergency, because there are people who are now not working. They are not getting any other money. But you cannot allow people to die. And this is also according to the World Health Organization. Hunger kills more people than any disease in the world.
Indeed.
And the statistic was done. It's only that we are not now talking of hunger. But in a day, hunger kills 1,400 people.
Yes.
Every day. So there are more people dying of hunger than more people dying of this corona. So at the moment now that corona is there, we need to take care of people's stomach. And then if the government can come up with a way of feeding their children that they were crying, that the only meal they can have now is not even, we had paid schools. Remember, parents had paid schools so that their children can have lunch in their school. Now, when you do that, you're like, in the next 3 months, you're fine. My child will be eating in school. Now, you have the burden, and the school fees has not been returned. And that's also very important for the Ministry of Education, that next time, parents should not pay just because they want to assume that their children were not in school, because the money we pay now in school is for feeding. We do a feeding program in our church, and I've seen children crying at the gate because we could not allow them to come in. So something must be done urgent for people that need food to get it cheaply, and if possible, this is the right time now to do the right donation. And those people involved, they should know it's no longer a joke. It's no longer as usual. It is now serious. People are dying. And if people will keep on, the next thing which will happen, it will be theft. After this, there will be a very serious people stopping, because this is the truth. I will not allow you to keep on eating and I can't eat and you pass at my door.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So there's another danger.
Yes.
So they can stop it.
But still on the same, have you witnessed people coming out, perhaps in your congregation, we are not supposed to assemble, but people coming in and saying, Bishop, I've just donated this, either it's a tank, perhaps I've donated some food stuff, to aid in the pandemic. We've seen some noble gestures on television. Have you seen that?
We had a very big breakthrough on people giving, and even now we are still receiving. As I told you, I have a program of feeding. That's our ministry mainly is of feeding ministry. It's not just as a church only.
Yes.
We do a lot of feeding, and we have over 5,000 children we feed. This is our program every day, and we have support from all over the world. But remember now, where we were to get support we can't get.
Yes.
We used to get support from America. Nothing now can come in, including even money. You cannot just receive money from anywhere. It's so hard because the people there cannot go to send it. And maybe you have no any other technology to do so.
Yes.
So now we are depending on the local people. And I'm encouraging people to help people in the churches, in the mosque, in everywhere they can help, wherever they have. And because people have need of food. There is amazing hunger. Yesterday, I was shocked myself. And I just wanted to meet 10 people. I had to run away. I can prove to you I had to run away because I didn't want to break the law of the government whereby you cannot meet more than 15 people or less. But what we had for food was this. So now we have made a plan. People can be coming to pick one by one at their own time, as long as they don't
don't form a crowd.
A crowd, yeah.
No, but just indeed. And you fight for human rights. He is after spiritual nourishment, but at the end of the day, there's a meeting point. This scourge doesn't affect the rich, the poor, the most powerful in terms of politics or anyone. It affects anyone. Do you both believe that perhaps this is the first time that the world is showing us, despite what anybody believes in, the world is telling us to come together?
I strongly believe so. I strongly believe so. There's one thing that COVID has made us realize. One, that we are all vulnerable.
All of us.
Two, there is need for us to come together and focus on dealing with the issue. The only point of departure is how to deal with the issue. And like Bishop said, there are a number of initiatives that are being done by individuals, by groups of young people. Let me cite a few of the things that are being done, especially in the informal settlements. We have networks of human rights defenders and activists who are doing some good work. We saw about immediately COVID became a real thing to Kenyans. In Kibera, immediately Shofco and Crime Sipoa, networks of young people, went out supplying water, supplying soap, educating locals on how to deal with the COVID. We've seen artists coming out, drawing, because at times there are people who do not have the luxury of watching news, but they need to get this information. The illiterate people are drawing illustrations to show how to wash, what COVID is, so that people who are not able to read can actually see. This is happening in Korogosho, where we have artists who have come out. In Dandora, we have an artist called Javan. He has done spoken words, poems that he is sharing with fellow young people. He has put on YouTube, and this is trending on social media because people are trying out different mediums of reaching out to Kenyans. It's not a matter of just giving, because literally the little that you could give is what you need at home. So people are becoming creative to find out, how can I contribute to pass the message, to give what I own in terms of knowledge to people. We've seen a group in Korogosho, it's calling itself Turudi Nyumbani. They are mobilizing food, they are mobilizing medication for the elderly, they are mobilizing people to give them the jerry cans to make soap and also distribute water. All these initiatives are being done by Kenyans in their own small way. And they are being done in those communities because they understand their challenge better. So the other contribution that the government can do is to come in and support these networks. We have community health service workers who are within the community. They are walking around sensitizing locals on how to deal with COVID. So the state can come in and support these initiatives, provide services, identify these people who are willing to support and complement the work you're supposed to be doing as a state by giving them simple things like gloves. If I'm a community health worker who would want to help an elderly person who is sick, I will walk to their house. But if I don't have the right equipment, simple things like gloves, what do I do? These are the things that I think the state needs to provide.
And perhaps to echo what Madam Salome has talked about, the virus is not looking for the rich, for the poor. Actually, the most powerful nations are the one having bearing
where you could run
the biggest blunt when it comes to the COVID virus. And is this perhaps a wake-up call that we need to look at issues like also other issues other than the coronavirus? Because I'm quite sure we will overcome this pandemic, but there are some things that we've been grappling with for years. Malnutrition, we had remember 1985 in Ethiopia, and ever since the drought, and now we have not made big steps. Look at malaria in Africa; it's killing so many kids. Is it a wake-up call?
This is a great wake-up call. First, as she said, that for uniting people, to make people who do even small things, to do it together in a very in oneness. Because if someone can affect you by coffee, then it means we are all close. And this can affect anybody, regardless of their nature or their name.
Just supposed to chip in any way we
people
can.
Need to come in with their own strength. And I want to encourage people to know giving is not how much you give, it's how you give it. So it's not even about money or anything. People can give time. I have one of my person who has just decided every time in the afternoon he will go to the market with his big van and carry people and take them home before they are too late, just to help them, because they can't. The market day was not as good as usual the way it has been, because now they have to close early, they have to change. So he has helping them to beat the curfew. So people need now to love, and I'm requesting also people to check on their neighbors. There are neighbors are dying because they have no food, and maybe the work they do, even within that time, they are not allowed to go to town. So this is the time, all of us, especially Kenya, we come together. This is the only thing that has no tribe, has no political color. It has united us now as one. This is the only thing that has stopped even things that we were making a thin line of divide. And it has put us in the same thing. But together we can overcome it. Nations that have come together, people who have encouraged each other, they have overcome.
And that's true, because looking at even the many countries that had troubles with borders and other countries, right now everything is all about coronavirus. It's about 6 minutes past 11, and we are going to take a short quick break, but remember our viewpoint question is, how has the curfew and the government directives affected you? You remember some people have to go home early, and I call it the curfew 6:59 challenge, because at 6:59 you should be closer home, or you should be in your house. I like to call it the curfew 6:59. But remember, you can talk to us at Ben Troy at KBC Channel 1 News. And of course, we are discussing how since Friday, when the curfew, the 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew was announced by the government, plus there are so many directives that were announced by the government last week and also yesterday. There were a raft of measures which actually Kenyans were supposed to follow so that we may be able to fight the coronavirus pandemic. And that is exactly what we are looking at. And my question on Viewpoint is, how has the curfew and government directed affected you? Of course, we know very well we are supposed to be indoors, but because of things that we cannot avoid, and especially essential services, that is why we are still working, but taking precautions. Remember, simplest things: wash your hands, maintain basic hygiene, make sure you observe the social quarantine as announced by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization. Just a raft of measures by the government to try and mitigate this global pandemic. And as yesterday, Kenya had 50 confirmed cases, and the whole world is actually on really disturbing figures. And when we talk about the deaths that are being witnessed, and especially in Europe, in Spain, in Italy, and also in the America, very powerful states, but they also have to contend and also have a relook at their systems. And of course, joining me on set, we have been talking to Madam Salome Nduta, who is a programs director the Defenders Coalition, which of course looks at issues national human rights. They are national human rights defenders, and we have Bishop Mike Brown, who is a spiritual leader and the leader of Metro Ministries. You do remember even on Sunday, churches, there was for the first time, as you say. I remember the last curfew perhaps we had, if I'm not wrong, was in way back in '82. I was a little boy, very little boy. Yeah. And I remember at the time of the coup. Madam Salome, I know you are not in business, or perhaps you have one or two businesses, but it has really affected businesses in even some places that we never expected that it would affect. The government incentives that it has given, perhaps today Parliament might suggest more, or in the coming days the government might decide to do some other adjustments. But as things stand now, so many Kenyans are really hard pressed, and as good citizens we also have to pay our taxes, because we need to make the country move. Do you think the government has done enough, and especially for the people in the informal sector, or it should actually tighten the noose?
I think, talking on behalf of the informal sector, I feel the government needs to do more.
Yes.
Because these are people who depend on what they sell on a daily basis. So if I'm not able to report in Marikiti by 4, which has always been the case, and I'm forced by curfew to report at 5, then it means, in terms of the way I plan my day, there is a whole 1 hour which I have lost. Because you find that most suppliers, or most people who are selling their wares in Marikiti or Gikomba, they were initially expected to be at the market by 4. Yes. And that meant that by around 9, this person would go back home. If you normally plant your sukumas and everything, then you can go back to your shamba to start harvesting for the second tranche that you will take the following morning.
Yes.
This has losing a whole 1 hour in terms of production affects a lot. So when we are thinking about the cost of production for big companies, factories, let's also think about the cost of production for a mama mboga or a person who sells their wares in Gikomba, in Marikiti, and other markets. Tie that with the fact that by around 5 or 4 for this matter, everybody is expected to be heading back home. And we saw on the streets of Nairobi, most vendors, they were indicating that the hour between 4 and 6, when people are leaving work, actually 4 and 7, that is their productive hour.
Yes.
This is when they get to sell a lot.
Yes.
So if the curfew states we should be in the house by 6, then this person who was normally coming out at 4 or 5 to go and sell literally closes their business. And this is a person who is expected to provide back home.
Yes.
So they are not selling, meaning they are not earning. So even if they get a tax waiver, that does not benefit them. The tax waiver benefits somebody who is working and getting paid after 30 days. But if I'm working and getting my salary on a daily basis, then I'm not a beneficiary. And this is the sector that I think the government needs to focus on. Just coming up with creative ways of ensuring that this mama mboga, who depends on selling sukumas and nyanyas on a daily basis, gets to benefit. How that is to be done, I think we have professionals who are good in economics, and they can advise the government.
Yes.
Yes.
A man of God, I do remember a couple of years when Kenya was really experiencing a shortage of food, a real hard drought, and an acute shortage of food. And Kenyans came up with a project we called Kenyans for Kenyans, where you can donate anything. Because we're talking about coronavirus, and the first thing we're told when you hear coronavirus is maintain basic hygiene. Basically wash your hands with soap and running water. But truth be told, here in Kenya, we also have people who don't even have clean drinking water, leave alone washing. Should perhaps this is the right time that we as Kenyans should come out for other Kenyans, just like the president did, together with his executive and the cabinet, and also some of the legislators, like the speakers, they also said we're going to take 30 or 10%. pay cut on our salaries. Is it time that we Kenyans, because this is, I believe, this is the biggest challenge that we've experienced as a nation in a long time.
I think it's the right time that people should do that. People should sacrifice for each other.
Yes.
And the pressure is not in sacrificing. The pressure is to make sure the sacrifice goes to the right people. That's not the big challenge. Because even the 80% that His Excellency has given, the question is, where will it go? Who will he handle? There are people now doing something who should be. And I'm so glad that you have brought up the word about the water. We have people, and this is amazing, this is the truth again. Waterborne disease kills more than even airborne disease now. There are people who don't have running water. Only we are saying that. That's why I want people to change even their advert to say, just wash your hand, make sure they are clean. Don't tell us the story of running water, because there are people who don't have anything to do with running water. What they get is the water they get. So, as you've said, there are people who don't have drinking water, even for food. This is the time the government should provide boozers.
And even Kenyans.
And Kenyans, people, everybody, even churches, even us churches, we should look for boozers and provide areas in villages, in those places where people are really in trouble, and make sure they get clean water. I tell you, people can survive more with clean water than even with dirty food. They need clean water first, because water will clean everything. So we need to start thinking, even the time people give contribution, does that contribution hit the ground where the people really need? The way you've said, this is, imagine there are people who have been working in salon and in barber shop. They are all locked down. They can't do any job. I remember these people, they have family. They still have to eat. They still have to, at the end of the day, their children don't know. Okay, we know about the corona. Children don't know about this. They know about food. They know in the evening, at lunch hour, something should be on the table. So I think it's a high time everybody who is able. I was so happy to see those people who came up with jerrycans, giving tanks from Hindu community, from every kind. That's the heart we need to be, like what we did that time, Kenyan for Kenyan. Because as I've said to you, we cannot run. The countries that we should run to, they are also going through the same trouble. So it's not like the other time when we are tired of hunger, we call for other nations. Every nation now is for themselves. So we as Kenyans, we need to come up with this. And my request is only one. If you are trusted with the food, it's not for your family alone. I don't mean your family should not get whatever,
share what you
but
have.
Share. If you're trusted with something like sanitary, I've seen people, we give them soap and they start selling. And they have been given as a gift, as a donation. That discourages the givers. So I want the government should come up with a system where they have to look for people who are doing something at the moment. People who have been able to distribute things in the right way, in a honest way. Not just in a way that it is not going to hit the ground. And because we have even the MCAs, we have the councillors, we have the people, the village people, we need to work together to make sure nobody during this season, which is not long, it's for a reason, but for a season, it's not permanent. They should come and see, we shall be able to provide to the lowest of the lowest, so that the fact that we will still feel the pinch of this situation, but at least we have a soft landing. You know, you can drink water, you can eat something at the end of the day. That's very important.
And going back to the curfew, the 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Curfew, of course, something that Kenyans are not used to, even people who are residing right here in Kenya are not used to. But looking at information, you know, mostly giving an example of myself, when I'm indoors, perhaps I'm on the television, on radio, perhaps phone, I'm on some digital device. And I remember the CES talking about information that being relayed should we also be checked, because some people are also spreading panic, which is making things more. Bearing in mind, Kenya is a third world country, and looking at spreading fear to even people who have not even had that access. Unajua inakuwa, it goes, Salome unajua nilionaje, by the way nimeambiwa hivi na hivi, and then it becomes something full blown. How have you seen people actually, the people that are actually tasked with the mandate? Because every time you have a smartphone, there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of information.
I loved something that the CS for Health did. I think it was yesterday, when he called out on some leaders who are sharing information that is meant to instill fear.
Even some have been grilled on this.
Yes, and I also loved that some of those leaders came out to apologize to Kenyans.
Yes.
And when we talk about guidelines, one of the areas that I think as a country we need to focus on is guidelines on dealing with technology. I know we have a law to that effect.
Yes.
A law that had been challenged, but I think we need to look at how else can we use technology to better pass on information. So there has to be a sieving point. Like you started by saying, we've never experienced COVID. This is the first time. And therefore, people are yearning to get information on what this is all about. How can I evade it? So there has to be a systematic way of saving information.
Yes.
And I know at some point there were conversations of people relying on what the World Health is sharing, what the Ministry of Health is sharing. And I think if Kenyans can rely on those two sources, I believe they would get the right information. Most people are spending time on smartphones, on television, just checking on information. But for your own health, even psychological health, learn not to depend on everything that you see. Because for some people, this might affect them very much. So if you can choose, I will only listen to what the CS is telling us. I will only visit WHO site to get more information.
Yes.
I will rely on messages that the Ministry of Health is circulating. Then your own psychological well-being will be at ease. Learn to have someone whom you can bounce information to. People who can assure each other. Because assurance is also a way of supporting each other. There are people who, when they get information, that they might panic. Let yourself have someone whom you can call and ask, I've seen this, is it true? Is it a lie?
Yes.
And what do I do? Because that assurance will also keep you going. Finally, to Kenya Power, kindly ensure that this country has power throughout.
Especially this time.
Especially this time. Because there are people who depend on water from the borehole. For you to get that water from the borehole to your tank, you need power. And if we continue having these outages every now and then it would mean, even for those people who do not have regular supply of water by the Nairobi Water Company and other sewerage companies in the various towns, and they depend on boreholes, you are also affecting them. So there are a number of measures that I think the government and the various departments and parastatals need to pull together. I think a coordinated way of dealing with COVID would really help. Let me just mention something to do with our health. Every hospital in this country has data of who is sick, what are they suffering from. How are we making use of this data?
We did the census last year.
When we did census last year, how are we making use of this data to know that the people who are suffering from diabetes, high pressure, all those sicknesses we are saying, they are catalyzing, they are catalyzing the COVID impact on individuals. How are we already dealing with the information that we have to preempt what COVID is likely to impact on Kenyans?
And of course, divert the resources to where it's most needed.
So that within the health sector, we are employing people, we are distributing medication to the people who are already suffering, yet they can't come out to go to hospital and get this medication, and also making it readily available. Yeah.
Indeed. You want to add something on that, Bishop?
Yeah, I wanted just to add about the information that it affects more than anything else. And especially when people who have no idea of anything and they want to speak about it. And only they can spread is fear. If I quote a scripture, it says that it's God not given us the spirit of fear, but love, sound mind, and power. Which it means is this: if I love, I will, even if things are dangerous, you can speak with hope rather than with the fear. So we have many sites, especially in the social media, whereby you go, everything it gives is so much fear that even people would be healed by the same so-called the corona. They fear to go tested. They fear the report because of the news they have heard. The message is this: people should know it is well, it is curable. If we do the right thing, we get it on the right time, everything, including any other diseases. But the catalyst of destruction of any disease, it is fear. When fear is pumped. And so the way Madam say, we should not take every information that we hear. Because some of the information, as much as they sound good, they create fear. And when anxiety is there, death comes quickly than even the real thing. So the truth is, fear kills more. Because people now will start frightened what will happen tomorrow. You will start budgeting a funeral that is not there. Just because of the fear. That's why we say the key for success is to fight the fear factor. And the only way you can fight the fear factor is to hear positive things. Not just negative.
The Bible describes them as the prophets of doom.
Yeah, they just need to, you need sometimes just to hear post that it's well, we can help, we're going to overcome this, we are working towards it. And because we walk in love, we can help each other. Because this is now, the way we said from the earlier in this program, it's not for some people. This is the only disease that is irrespectant of person. It doesn't respect your position, your everything. But as much as it is like that, spreading of fear and wrong information, where people...
and still on the same, apologies for cutting you, but this is also, I believe it also touches a bit on what you are talking about. I think this is something that we should also remember as Kenyans, that the information on coronavirus by the World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health are the only sure way to be kept abreast with what is happening around the globe and also right here in Kenya. Of course, KBC also being mandated to also make sure that the information gets farthest. Still on social media, Bishop, you command a huge following, and Madam Salome also fighting for human rights. Everybody wants their rights preserved and also fought for. Are you in any way using social media perhaps to either spread the message of the disease and what we should do as Kenyans? Yeah, we do that, but mainly following what the World Health Organization is saying. Because any other information... In your sermons, now, now they are online, right? I've done that on online, because it's so important to get the right information. Because we say this as Christian, faith cometh by hearing. And hearing the word of God, but also hearing things. If you keep on hearing negative things, they create a kind of faith in you that is destructive to yourself. So sometimes as Kenyan, we should stop these things that people are setting through, fear, things that are creating wrong information. People try to exaggerate things because we have people who want to show these things too much or to fight the government decision on this. Let us support what the government says, and it's right. Where it is not right, we will criticize, but in a right way, but not in a way to create fear. And Madam Salome, perhaps you can add on that, because all the agencies tasked with actually attracting an audience, whether it's television, radio, churches, anybody that voice is taken seriously. Perhaps on social media, because I'm quite sure a lot of people are in the house, not because they want to be in their houses, it's because of the dreaded virus.
Yes, we are equally using social media, and we are active on Twitter, we are active on Facebook, we are using our WhatsApp pages quite well, because we have networks of human rights defenders spread across the 47 counties. So one of the things that we do, like on a daily basis, is when we get this information from the Ministry of Health, from the World Health Organization, we know who is in the farthest corner of this country and who, for them, accessing internet is not an easy thing. So we are actually converting that information into messages that we can send to them via SMSs. We are quite active also in getting issues from people in terms of what is happening within their counties, within their villages, the concerns they are having, and raising them with the relevant partners that we work with. We work closely with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and therefore some of the concerns we are gathering, which we cannot respond to by virtue of our mandate, we are pushing them to them, and we hope they are able to raise them with the government, because that is their mandate.
And some people have argued that the recent measures will only be powerful to mitigate only a small percentage of this virus unless Kenyans chip in.
I am one of those believers.
Even the president actually urged, he never told anybody you must take a pay cut other than his executive, but for the rest, he said he also wants other Kenyans to embrace the spirit of togetherness in this pandemic, and also not only, it's not a must that you say 30% of my salary will be cut. But you can also say 30% of that or 10% of that every month. I'm going to do something that is going to help other Kenyans, especially at this time.
I am a firm believer that if you are in a position or if you are able to, extend your hand to that person who is not able to. And Bishop said one important thing, that look out for your neighbor. I know in this city, there are people who live in one estate and they don't know their immediate neighbor. This is that time when you need to know not who is just your neighbor, but whether they ate, whether they are sick, whether they are having challenges, and if you are able to do anything, do it. If you're not able to, make it public. Because we are being told, if you know of a person who has traveled and they are not quarantining themselves, make it public. It is the same way of telling you, if you know of a neighbor who is sleeping without food, and you are not able to give them, make it public, because there is somebody who probably they have food, but they don't know who to give. When we make this information public, you are making people know, those people who have know that there's somebody who needs and how to reach them and where to reach them. For me, the other thing, this helps in terms of mapping. We need to have information ready, knowing that people in this region do not have water, for example, and let water be supplied. People in this region do not have food. Let food be taken there. For example, I've been wondering, in Turkana, like for the last few months, I think this year or towards the end of last year, people were dying of hunger. What is actually happening in Turkana now? How can we get that information? That information can only be gotten if people in Turkana can start sending that information out via messages, via WhatsApp, posting on social media, because that's the only way, that's the only platform that most of us are engaging in.
Indeed. Bishop, 1 minute on that.
Okay, just the way she said is very, very right. But also to put this more weight on what we are saying, that people need to be helped, and it's us to help each other. And this has affected a group that this just came to my mind, and I thought that will be good to share here, that we have people that have been working outside, like in our town, Nakuru alone. Okay, the women who goes out every night for prostitution, who are registered,
the twilight guards,
there are 11,000.
11,000?
Yeah. But 11,000. This is a great statistic work because we have a program. We work with them. We call it Daughters of Destiny, where we rescue them and help them to transform their life. So
11,000.
11,000 in a this is not even the outskirt.
Yeah, perhaps Nakuru is known as Nax Vegas.
Yes, but no, I'm just giving you just 11. So remember, these are active. We have those who are passive. These are active. Passive are married women who once a while they will go out.
Yes.
But active, there are those who have declared themselves, I am like this, and I'm going to
do this every night.
And remember now, all the nightlife is cancer.
All right, that's a big challenge.
That's a challenge. That's a challenge.
I had not thought of that. But
that's a big challenge. So these people, they will still need food. They have children. And I made a decision personally as a preacher. I will never call anybody's daughters a prostitute because I don't know if I was the one in that position.
Yes.
I have 5 kids and no man will ever give me money unless I do something with them. Yes. I would be probably worse. So I'm not judging.
Yes.
What I'm telling, we should look in a broad way that this is a big move, and this time we can use this opportunity to win these people for another business or something else.
Yes.
So the government, when they are watching this, they should not just look at the people. They are telling people, go home, go home. There are people who cannot go home at that time because there is battle. The hotels are closed. Everything is off. So it is a time at this country, we need to look at our neighbor. You need to know why, because we are children. They have not eaten. You need to know. Because this is something that has affected this country in a big way. And when we do that and check for each other and encourage the government even to supply where the need is.
Yes.
When we say of cutting our pay, if I cut my pay, where am I taking to? Who am I giving? And if
it should be channeled.
There should be a way that can be channeled.
So as it may get to where exactly
exactly. That's the main thing. And when that happens, Kenya is a rich country. We can take care of our poor people.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a time where we experience our rains. Perhaps switching gears from human rights and from our preaching, we are, at the end of the day, we are also Kenyans, and the rains rains in Kenya sometimes are a good blessing and sometimes a big challenge. We've seen landslides, and sometimes the rains have really caused a lot of devastations in the country. We also have the challenge of locusts. That's the rains are here, and Kenya is an agricultural country. Madam Salome, can you see that as a big challenge, and especially now we have to deal and grapple with the deadly COVID-19?
I want to reflect on what is happening in parts of this country, especially in Ahero. The other day we got information from some of our human rights defenders in that region that people are literally living outside their houses. Why? Because the place is flooded. So for this kind of areas where the rains are causing havoc, tied to the fact that now we have COVID, I fear just to think about what is actually happening. And I would really wish we could get more information on what is being done for people in these regions. Because the rain is supposed to be a blessing, but at times the blessings come in different ways. And for the people in Ahero and other areas in Siaya, this is a very difficult moment because they can't even stay indoors. The houses are already flooded. So literally they have to be out, and all of them have to conglomerate in areas where it is a little bit safe for them. So they are running away from the rains to a safer place, and if the safe places are limited, then the social distancing factor might not even apply for them, because at that point in time, they're not even thinking about COVID. COVID is second to, I have to run away from the cold,
yes,
to a place where I won't be carried away with water. And then when I get there, if social distancing cannot even happen,
yes,
we have no choice. So I think these factors also need to be looked into.
Yes.
Where social distancing cannot happen because of other factors,
yes,
what measures can be put in place?
Bishop?
Yeah, into some of the city, the rain will be a blessing, because I saw even
the planting season.
Yeah, yeah. Apart from the planting season, this is something that has been predicted. It's not now, it's not the World Health Organization, this is just opinion. Okay. The rain is washing lots of surfaces that we would be washing literally. So they are like you saw the other day, yes, Honorable Sonko trying to wash the streets.
Yes, yes.
The rain does it once, so there's an advantage of that. And on this planting season, I think also the government should chip in some areas, because agriculture, this is what has been said internationally, even to America, that after this, there will be a lot of lack of food. Agriculture is what will save the situation. So the government, Ministry of Agriculture should go deep, yes, try to provide seeds where it's needed, or even to do whatever the best they do to make sure people get the right seed. They might not be able to provide, but get the right seed, yes, the right fertilizers, so that the farmers who can do something during this season, because the good thing about farming is during the day, they can work out a plan. We have enough farming and have enough seeds on the ground, because after this, there will be more need of food than it has ever been needed, yes, before, yes, because we have been having a time of calamity. We are going through a situation. Yes. So now, I would, if I was a part of the Ministry of Agriculture, it's the time to plan ourselves, get food, get the right seeds to the farmer, the right fertilizers to the farmer. Where we have our bread baskets area, let it be given an opportunity to do it now. And even possible, the president should cut some of the agricultural more further, so that people can farm more this time, because after this is when the real life will start. Yeah, and it's coming soon out. Indeed, and my director tells me we need to pick up the pace. But before then, I can see Ondima S.E. Patrick talking about some Kenyans are taking this as a big joke. You do remember even the CS said if we take this disease the way we are taking it, it's gonna take us somewhere else. So Kenyans should actually take adequate measures. People should stop unnecessary. This is Fred Bobby. He's talking about people should stop unnecessary traveling. Watoto wamerudi nyumbani na kuanza kutembelea marafiki. Perhaps this is another big challenge. We have been told to stay in the houses together with our kids. And of course, Jimmy Prince Sanchez talking about Kenyans are willing to do more than enough. You know, we've been told do this and do this, but he's saying we're doing more than enough to take precautions on this deadly virus. But the level of poverty does not allow Wanjiku to afford things like sanitizers, and he says the government should intervene. Just sampled some of the responses that we have been receiving, and because of the interest of time, Bishop, what are we going to do? You know, Sahi, it's just each and every day we need to be told do this and that, and embrace it as Kenyans, because if you don't do it, you are risking your life. Yes. No, the truth is you're not just risking your life. Indeed, you are risking other people's life. Yes, because it has become now so serious that you are more dangerous to other people than even to yourself, because some people want to die, let them die alone. But people should take this as a sin, because when you see the nations that I live, most of my life I've lived in America and Britain, and I know the kind of life there. If they can be affected, the continent. Yes, they have homes. Yes. We have no homes. You know, I said, go home. You know, they have money. Yes. They have the best supermarket, the best places they can go. They drive their own vehicles. There are places, Cayman Island, they don't have even matatu, no transportation. Everyone has a car. Yet they are keeping life serious. I am begging Kenyans, even if when we can pray, let us keep on praying. Let us make prayer like our core, but at the same time, let us follow the simple rules that we have been given, and those simple rules will save you better than what you think, maybe to be free, to travel, to do all these things we can do.
All this is the time. Depend on what we do.
We do now. It's so important. Thank you.
For me, I want to appreciate the board that was set up yesterday to deal with emergency response, because Bishop asked a question: if I wanted to donate, where do I channel? And I think this is a task that that board should at least help us to think through. That if Kenyans want to give, where do we channel it? Where shall we get accountability for what we give? Because accountability in this country is a questionable thing. Secondly, is there a possibility of NYS buses coming in to cheap transport? Yes. Bishop shared what a colleague, a friend of his is doing in Nakuru.
Yes.
Why are we not seeing these buses coming out to complement the matatus in the evening when the hour comes in? Can we have these buses being brought out? Because we know we said we don't want matatus to carry more than, to carry 8. So what happens to the other 6? They need a vehicle that will transport them.
Yes.
So for me, that is another area that the government can chip in. Finally, coordination of efforts. From the community level to the county to the national, we need to start seeing coordinated efforts of dealing with this pandemic. Because if we don't put our heads together, if we don't channel our meager resources towards dealing with COVID, we might not deal with what will come up in April. We were given by end of April, probably we'll be dealing with 10,000 or so.
Yes.
So how are we planning to deal with this in a coordinated manner?
Indeed. And plus, perhaps we echo what Madam Salome and Bishop have talked about. Actually, the government was very categorical and said that we need to watch this situation, because now the virus is spreading between Kenyans, not people coming from other countries and coming into the country with the virus, which is also quite dangerous. And remember, what we are experiencing now, as I call it, the curfew 659 challenge, is just a curfew. Some countries, developed countries, including Italy, Spain, France, have had to close down completely. That is a total lockdown. And we actually don't want to find ourselves being a third world countries where some of the resources are not everywhere. We need to be together in this. Wash your hand, observe basic hygiene. Okay, if you can't find running water, please, you can even use a jug. Somebody can kindly assist you on the same, and kindly make sure that that jug is also washed. Thank you so much indeed for watching. Let's continue this conversation on social media. Of course, your views on how the curfew and the government directive has affected you. Remember, each and every day, the government through the Ministry of Health is actually updating Kenyans on the mitigation factors and anything that may arise, including new cases and the measures when it comes to the treatment. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ben Troenjwe. I have been with Madam Salome Nduta, who is the Programs Director at Defenders Coalition, and Bishop Mike Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you, so much for coming. And of course, be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.